Hello and welcome to Washington Exec's video series. I'm Amanda Ziadeh with Washington Exec, and with me today is Malcolm Jackson, Principal Director for CIO Advisory Services at Accenture Federal Services. Thank you so much for joining me today, Malcolm.
Thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, wonderful. So we reached the end of 2020, and we're also nearing the end of the current administration. So we'd like to pick your brain a bit about what government and industry can expect to prepare for in 2020 IT-wise. But first, I want to ask, what is the biggest lesson, if you were to pick one, that you've learned in federal IT this past year?
You know, this past year, it's all been about COVID-19. And for me, what I've noticed is how quickly the federal government has adjusted to telework. It's just been amazing at the pace of change. And we here at Accenture Federal Services even saw that in our engagement with the federal government. CIOs were pivotal in this change. They were faced with trying to find out what is the right technology to put in place that best enabled their workforce. And they found themselves just looking at things more broadly across the federal government, or at least within the workforce. They had to take into account things like bandwidth issues and home network issues that were never seen at the level that they were seeing with the telework. I even saw a situation where a federal CIO was sending home a desktop PC for an employee just to be able to access their systems because they couldn't get laptops in place in time. So it's just the way in which they approached it, the change in the work paradigm. CIOs were in the forefront of this. Federal leaders were looking at new ways in which they managed workers because they had workers who before were in the office all the time. We're now at home, and they had to think about how do they manage those workers. So it's just a very interesting time. I think it's a great time for technology. It shows how technologies can improve and transform the workforce as a whole.
Okay, wonderful. So what does the year ahead look like for federal CIOs?
Oh, that's an interesting one to try and think about looking ahead. As you think, last year at this time, we never would have thought telework would be the main thing. But I think it's more changes to building upon what we have today. I don't think that telework or remote workforce is going to change. I believe that they're going to build upon what they have today. And CIOs have to think about what are some of the administration priorities and how do they best align their people, technology, practice to align to meeting those agencies' missions as a whole. I would say that they should think about being aggressive, really look to be aggressive and get a seat at the table and helping their missions move forward as they chart this new frontier. Because quite frankly, the federal government's at a brand new frontier from a technology perspective, and CIOs are best equipped to be able to partner with them and tell them how they may be able to leverage that technology to help transform agencies in ways and using technology ways that have never been used before.
Right, absolutely. So what technology would be most beneficial for CIOs to invest in this year as they continue to modernize and integrate their systems?
You know, I would say it's not one technology. You know, there's most agencies or CIOs have made that pivot toward a variety of different technologies, things like cloud, platform, automation, RPA, analytics, but they probably haven't looked at them using them collectively or in harmony, but all together. Thinking of how do you best dial up cloud and leveraging analytics and what you should be doing to best get the benefit that your mission or your agency is looking for from a mission perspective. There's some things that they should be looking at around agile and the agile practice. And I would also encourage them to think about human-centered design and how they might be able to leverage it in ways that had never been used before, where you really put the user in the center and you design systems around the user. In the past, that's not what has been done. And it's a practice that's emerging and growing. And it really adds benefit to an organization as a whole.
Absolutely. All right. So my last question for you, is as the Biden administration begins its work and evaluates current IT systems, what should they be considering as first steps?
You know, I have a bit of experience in this. I was a past CIO in the Obama administration. I've sat in their seats, so I have a sense of what the challenges that they're faced with. You know, my advice to them is you don't have a lot of time. You need to move fast. I would, if I were stepping in that role today, I would be developing an approach for CIO rapid assessment to understand what are some of my strengths and my weaknesses. What do I need to build upon, and what are some of the main priorities of the agency as a whole? I'd be asking myself questions around how strong is my digital platform? Where am I from a cloud perspective in terms of capabilities? Am I cloud smart? What type of analytic capabilities do I have? And do I need to fine tune anything there? I'd be looking at having, putting in agile approaches to everything. I want an agile organization, and I'd want to strengthen my customer experience capabilities, because at the end of the day, American citizens are your customers. So how am I engaging with them? And I'd also tell them that you've got one time to get it right. Don't try and do too many things at once. I'd really focus on 2 to 3 things that really benefit the agency as a whole. And then finally, I would say, don't be afraid to ask for help. Now, asking for experts to come in where you may have weaknesses in your organization is only going to benefit you. You can't do it all by yourself. This is a great time. These are great roles. You should look at your organization holistically and position it in ways that's going to benefit the organization as a whole and support the administration priorities as a whole.
Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing these insights with us. Hopefully next year doesn't bring as many IT surprises as this year did, and it'll be a bit easier to plan. So I appreciate your time today.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.